It is so hard to believe that John Denver has been gone for over 2 decades. It was a plane crash. Lots of folks think that it was pilot error. Others like to speculate that there was something else going on. At this point, I don't really know if it matters. I admired the man for his singing, his songwriting, and his caring for others. He had such a kind and loving soul, and it showed inside and out. John Denver's Greatest Hits was the first album I ever owned. I say album, but it was actually an 8-track. Growing up, I wasn't permitted to listen to rock music, and so when my parents gave me a stereo system one year for Christmas, I received the John Denver 8-track, an Osmonds LP, and a couple of kids' superhero records. There we go, that's my complete collection. At least it was way back then. It would take a couple more years of working on my parents before their stance on music would soften up a bit. Anyway, I listened to John's Greatest Hits nonstop. Country Roads, Sunshine on My Shoulder, and Rocky Mountain High were among my favorites. My dad had a favorite as well. He would come into my room and fire up the song Eagle and the Hawk. Last year I found a CD version of this album and gave it to him as a gift. By the way, he still won't listen to rock and roll. Anyway, in the 70s, John Denver was everywhere. Besides the radio, John was in movies and television. His pairing with George Burns in Oh God gave him newfound celebrity, and of course, his television specials were silly, fun, and full of good music. And he even had an occasional Muppet or two on those shows. When you're 10 years old, that's pretty cool. Of course, the 80s and the 90s, well, they weren't as kind to John, at least if you look at the music charts. He still had his fans and he could still fill a concert venue, but the hits stopped coming and John's personal life hit the rocks as he fought his own set of demons, whether it be failed relationships, depression, or his battle with alcohol. You know what though? I still listened. I even bought a few of his albums, but truthfully, my loyalty waned just a little bit as I became a teenager and started listening to bands like Journey, The Tubes, and the Boomtown Rats. Yep, I know that's an eclectic mix. I guess that's why I still could find time to listen to John as well, to reacquaint myself with wonderful songs like Annie's Song, which I still think is one of the best songs ever written by anyone. And John sure loved to fly. His father had been a career Air Force pilot in the United States military, and when John got up in the air, I have to believe not only did he feel a deep sense of freedom, but he also felt like he was reconnecting with his dad. And all of the problems in his personal life, his worries about his musical career, all of that stuff, well, in the air, it had to feel like he was leaving them miles behind. So, getting back to the crash, here's what we know. He was flying low, he was also short on fuel, he didn't have a license, there were issues with the fuel switch. All of that doesn't exactly add up to a recipe for a successful flight. Like I said, there are some folks that speculate that John was being purposefully careless. I prefer to think that it was just a sad accident. Regardless, Henry John Duchendorf Jr., you will always have a place on my personal playlist. In 2002, an original sculpture titled Spirit was commissioned by the WinStar Foundation, an environmental protection not-for-profit organization, to celebrate and remember the life of John. The bronze statue is now located at the Colorado Music Hall of Fame. I've got to say this is just a fantastic work of art and an absolute perfect way to remember the man who was as passionate about Mother Earth as he was the music that he created. So there you go, my tribute to the late, great John Denver, a very talented man and from what I understand a heck of a great guy. Did you ever listen to John Denver? If so, what was your favorite song? Let me know in the comments section, and while you're at it, I'd love a thumbs up, and I would be absolutely honored if you would consider subscribing to my channel. I talk about music, movies, and television, mostly from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. You know, the good stuff. But most importantly, and as always, thank you so much for watching.